Hi everybody and welcome to my channel. This is Christine and I'm super excited today to share with you this super teeny tiny micro mini album that I made using the new Graphic 45 Elegance collection. This is part of my brand ambassador audition for 2021. If you are interested in seeing how this little book is made, stay tuned and I will give you step-by-step instructions so you can make one for yourself. These are my 5 pocket pages, and as you will see, the tags will fit down into the page and then they will obviously stick up a little bit more than the back of the page. So whenever we make the album, the cover is going to be a little bit shorter, so this will actually stick up from the top of it. So I'm going to take this back out, and next what we're going to do is we're going to add decorative paper to the inside of the tag or the pocket. We're going to put some paper here and we're going to cut some decorative paper here, and then we're going to add some embellishments. So these will be the 5 background pieces for the back of the pocket. These are the 5 background pieces for the pocket, so we can set these aside and move on to the next step, which is cutting the front of the pocket. I have my 5 pieces of paper cut, so now what I need to do is make sure that I'm going to cut the top part to match the pocket. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the tag die to cut this, because when I lay this tag die on top of here, it's the same exact shape, but it's just slightly smaller. So it will be the perfect shape for being able to make this front piece. So how I like to do this, I'm going to get a piece of washi tape, and I am going to make sure that I know where the center is. So I have my cutting mat, so I center this, and I am going to make sure that I have this die all the way at the top of my paper. I'm going to put my tape right over top of this piece so that it doesn't move. I'm going to take this to my machine and I'll be right back. Now I have my first cut piece, and what you will see if you lay it on top of your pocket, you have a nice small black border around the entire piece. So I am going to do the same thing one at a time, cutting each of these 4 pieces so that it matches this one. These are the 5 pieces that I have for the front of my tags. So now I'm going to bring my tag die in again. I already have some washi tape on it, and I'm going to be really careful and line this up because I didn't cut a lot of excess. So if you are not good at lining up dies, you might want to cut your pieces a little bit bigger so you have some room. So I'm going to line this paper up with the bottom of the die, and then the top of the die will fit right on the edge. Make sure that you use washi tape so that will stay in place. So I'm going to run all these through my machine and then I'll be right back. These are my 5 pieces for the front of my tags. So what I'm going to do next, now that I have all of the papers cut, I'm going to use distress ink. So I'm going to be using Black Soot distress ink for my pages. I'm going to ink around the edges of all the papers, and then I'll be back and we will start assembling the different tags and the different pockets. Next, we're going to start decorating our pockets. So I'm going to first add the back piece, and then I'm going to add the front piece. We are not going to add this piece until the actual pages are inside of the journal. So I am going to set these off to the side, and I'm going to take first my back piece, and I'm just using tacky glue. You can also use double-sided tape for this step if you would prefer to do so, but I prefer the tacky glue. So once you have your adhesive on the paper, you are just going to center this on the back side. And then when it flips up, you'll have a nice small black border around the entire piece. Then on the front, we're going to take one of our pieces. And we're going to center it over the tag pocket. So that it has a small black border around the entire thing. So I'm going to repeat this process with the other 4 to make the 5 pockets for the album. Then we're going to take one of the tags and one of the tag pieces. This one will be the same exact size as the tags. There will not be any overlap or any extra black border around it. So just make sure that you line this up really well. It also strengthens my cardstock because the cardstock that I'm using here, this black card, is a little bit thinner. So with the extra layer on it, it makes it nice and thick. So I'm going to set this aside for later. We're not going to do anything with the back of it because this is where we're going to have room for a small photo. So this will go inside this first pocket here. Here are the 5 pockets and tags assembled. So I have my tags and then I have my pockets. So the only thing that does not have any paper on it is this back piece here. We will attach this to the Hinge system into the book first, and then we will add that piece to hide the Hinge system so you can't see it over here. I have also taken the center of the cardstock and just drawn a vertical line down, and then a 1/2 inch from the bottom I drew a horizontal line all the way across the bottom. This is going to help me line up these pieces onto my cover. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to start with the spine piece, and I'm going to put glue all over the back of this. If you want to use double-sided tape, you can do that. A lot of people prefer that, but I just feel like it's easier and it holds really well with the glue, so that's what I'll be using. Once you have the glue on there, you're going to line the bottom up with the line that you drew, the horizontal line, and you're going to center it over that line that you have, the vertical line that is in the center of the paper. And that's going to make sure that the covers and the spine are in the center of this piece. We're going to make sure that when we put these front and back covers on, we leave a gap between the cover and the spine piece so that it does bend easily whenever we open and close the book. What I like to do is make this gap 2 times the thickness of my chipboard. So what I typically do is I measure 2 pieces together, and I make sure that that's where I draw a line. So I just take both of my covers and draw a line like this on either side. Then whenever I glue these on, I want to make sure that I don't put the cover over that line so that there's plenty of room. If you make your gap too small, whenever you open and close the book, it doesn't always open correctly, and sometimes it won't lay flat. So again, I'm going to put this to the left of the line that I just drew and lining it up with the vertical line or the horizontal line that I drew earlier. I'm going to repeat the process with the back cover, putting it on the right-hand side of the line and lining it up with the horizontal line and the other 2 chipboard pieces. So now we have the covers glued to the paper. We're going to let this dry before we do the next step. Now that the glue is dry on these, we're going to go ahead and start bending these covers. So I just like to start and fold one end over and then fold the second end over. Then open these up and fold on the long ends. I'm going to open them all up again, and then I'm going to cut these corners at a diagonal, but I'm going to go about the width of my chipboard. I'm going to leave there as well around the corner because I want to make sure that my corners are wrapped, so I'm going to push this up so that we hide those corners. Now that we have that part done, we're going to make sure that these lay nice and flat. It'll be easier when we glue them. You can use double-sided tape here, but I'm going to use glue, and I'm going to add glue on both of these tabs on the sides first and glue those down. Now that I have these sides glued down, I'm going to take my bone folder into the corner, and I'm going to just slightly wrap the paper in the corner around the actual corner of the chipboard so that whenever I flip the other two sides over it, it will be nice and covered. I'm going to do that with both sides here. And then I'm going to add glue on one of the long sides first, and then I'll do the second one, and we'll make sure that the corners stay tucked in really well when we do this. This is what the piece will look like after it is wrapped. So this still is exposed, but the entire back side should be a completely wrapped one piece. And then we're going to take another piece of cardstock. This is just cut at 2 5/8 of an inch by 9 1/4 inches. And we are going to glue this down here. So you want to make sure that you trim your paper so that it's slightly smaller than the length and the width. There's just very little tiny room, and you can trim it if your spaces are a little bit different than mine. You might need a different size piece, but you're going to glue this on here next. Now that this piece is glued on to the front, you should have continuous pieces on front and back. We're going to set this aside and let it dry before we move it and start bending it so that it really gets to be nice and tight in there. We're actually going to start to just lightly put where the creases are. This can help the paper, as there is still some glue on it, to start to get into those folds, but we're not going to bend it yet. We're going to let the glue dry so that it doesn't pucker here. I'm going to show you how to do a hidden hinge. So we're going to cut one piece of cardstock 2 1/2 inches by 4 inches. This 2 1/2 inch piece will actually fit right into our pocket, and it'll be just slightly smaller than the actual pocket itself. So to score this, you can use a scoreboard, but if you don't have a scoring board, you can use a regular cutter that has a nice little groove in it, and a ball tool or any type of scoring tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score this piece 1/4 inch along every single 1/4 inch of this entire piece. So if you're using a regular cutter, you're going to line it up at 1/4 inch and run your scoring tool right down the cutting mechanism. And then you're going to line it up at 1/2 inch, score it again, line up at 3/4 inch, score again at 1 inch, and you keep going until the whole piece is scored. Once you're finished, you will have 1/4 inch score marks along the entire piece, and what you're going to do next is fold in both directions on each of these score lines, just so that the paper will move easily. This is going to make the pages turn easier, so we want to make sure that they are nice and easy to turn. So we're just going to fold along each of these score lines, and then I'll show you the next step. Now that our piece is scored and folded along each of these, we're going to start making the hinges. The first piece on each side is not going to be a hinge. It's going to be the ends of the hinge system that's going to glue into the album. But after that, what we're going to do is we're going to glue the second and third ones together, and we can use double-sided tape or glue. I'm just going to use glue because I have it. So what I'm going to do on the third section, I'm going to add glue to the entire area, and I'm going to fold over so that the second section overlaps with the third section. I'm going to fold the first hinge piece back and score that and get it out of the way. Then we're going to skip one and we're going to add glue to the next piece. We're going to fold this glued piece down over the next piece. So we're going to have the two we just glued together, skip one, glue, fold it down over the next. Then we're going to fold this piece back. We now have two pieces here. We're going to skip the next one. We're going to add glue to the one after that. And then we're going to fold this down over the one below the one we just glued. Fold back, smooth this out. Now you should have three. We're going to skip the next row, add glue, fold over to the one below the one we just put glue on, and smooth this out. Fold this back over. We now should have four. Leave this next one without glue. Add glue to the one below that. And then fold this one to the one right below it and smooth it out. Fold back. And now we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pieces here. If you flip this over, you can start to fold the hinges back. We have our 5 hinges for our pages and then a 1/4 inch tab on either side. So if I bring my cover piece in, this piece is going to fit right here on the spine. I will trim this slightly on each side just to make sure it doesn't go in the crease, but we will do that in a little bit. So we're going to set the spine piece off to the side and we're going to focus next on the cover. Now what we are going to do is attach our pages. So we're going to take the first page, and what we're going to do is apply glue to just the back of the hinge, making sure that we don't get it down below this crease. So I'm going to start there. You can also use double-sided tape here if you want. And I'm going to put this hinge so that it rests in this fold. So I'm going to line this up with the bottom. So the hinge is lined up with the bottom score line. I'm going to fold this tab in and I'm going to fold this up just to make sure that I have this correctly positioned, and it should be a nice straight line with the edge of the album. I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to make sure that this is nice and adhered. I'm going to flip it over and burnish it on the back side. So now we'll be able to add our decorative papers, making sure that it is on the insides of here. And it'll sit like this. Then we're going to glue pockets first. So we're going to add just a little bit of glue to each of the tabs. Making sure it's nice and flat. Then I'm going to add glue to the background. Then I'm going to line it up with the corner to make sure that it's even. Make sure it's nice and firmly attached. So now I should have my first pocket completely decorated. So I'm going to attach the other 4 pages in the same exact way. Now we have all 5 of the pages that are in our album. We can go ahead and add the tags in next. So we're going to alternate the pink ones and the white ones. I have cut my pieces for my covers and my spine. I've inked around the edges and they're ready to go. But before I put them on my album, I'm going to add some ribbon and some lace to the front cover and the back cover. So I have used 2 pieces of ribbon here that are 10 inches long, and these are going to be here so that we can tie the album closed. So this is ribbon that I got from Michaels. It's really cheap. You can use any ribbon that you have. And I'm going to put just a little tiny bit of glue here first, just in the center. And then I'm going to add the ribbon on. And then what I like to do, I have some black masking tape. I like to just take a piece of tape and put it right over top of that ribbon to hold it down to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. And then I will have my pattern paper over top of this so you'll never even know it's there. But I know the ribbon is really secure and it's not going to pull out of the papers anytime later. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to turn it upside down. And I am going to do the same thing on the back side, just being careful to try to get the ribbons to be lined up. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a lace border around the entire album. So I am using this by the spool lace trim that I got from Joann Fabrics. It's pink. So I've already cut my pieces. So I have 2 pieces that are 4 inches long. I have 2 pieces that are 3 inches long, and I have 2 pieces that are 9.5 inches long. I'm going to start with the smaller pieces, and I'm going to add those to the, make sure I have it the right way. So I'm going to add those to the edge of the cover on the spine side. The longer 4-inch pieces are going to go here, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So for this, I'm going to use Fabri-Tac glue. It holds better, I think, so I like to use it. Making sure that you're using the correct side of the ribbon, I'm first going to make sure I have the right one. Okay, so I'm going to glue this. Just put a small strip of glue right on the edge. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing on this other side on the back. The longer strips are going to start here and they're going to wrap around the entire album. But first what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these at an angle. so that whenever I go to glue this down, I'll be able to get this to still pop up. Starting with the edge on the front cover. Just adding some glue all the way to the end. Before I put the piece on the spine, I'm going to actually add my paper to my spine to cover it. So I'm going to use regular glue here, and I'm going to continue to wrap this. I'm going to repeat that process with the bottom piece of trim as well, and I'll be right back. The next thing we're going to do is add this piece here, and it's a little bit longer for a reason. So we're going to add this into the center, and then we're going to cut the corners at a diagonal so that this entire piece has trim. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to add glue from just the first piece of the trim to the other piece of the trim. And then we're going to center this piece. And we're going to add the second piece to the back cover, same way. We can either just cut this so that it is the same size, or we can cut this at a slight angle, which is what I'm going to do, to make it a mitered corner. So again, you can either just cut slightly so that it is even, or you can cut it at an angle. To give it a mitered corner. I'm going to do the same thing on the back side. And then we're going to add our pattern paper covers to the front and the back. So I'm going to take the first one. I'm going to add regular glue into the center. Then I'm going to use Fabri-Tac around the edges because it will be what's on top of the lace, so I really want this to hold. So I'm just going to run that glue all the way around the edges. And then we're going to repeat that process with the back. And so now we have our cover. And we have our tie closure. So the next step is to decorate the tags on the inside of the album and to decorate more of the album cover. Next, we're going to add our small pink frame to the back of our tags. So what you're going to do is glue this down on the bottom part. and you're going to make sure that it's lined up with the bottom and it will perfectly fit on the tag. We are going to leave the top part open so that we can slide a small photo down through it, or we can just put a small photo over top and this will be a frame around it. So to do that, what I'm going to do, I will be putting glue on the edges of the paper. If you have a Xerox sticker maker, you can run this through that. It's a little bit easier, but this will work too. You just want to be careful that you don't use too much glue so that it doesn't get all over the black cardstock. So once we have the glue on 3 sides, we will not put any glue on the top. We're going to then position this in the center and at the bottom. So once it's finished, the piece that we cut out can slide down here and there will be able to be room to put a photo there, or you can place the photo over top this. Next, we're going to take each of the black frames. We're going to do the same thing with these, but we're going to glue these on the inside front and back covers. So we're going to make sure again that we don't glue on the top, but we're going to glue around the other 3 sides. So now we have the frame on the front cover with the opening and on the back cover with the opening at the top. What we're going to do next is decorate the front of the tags. The first thing I'm going to do is add ribbon to the top of my tags. So I cut 5 pieces of black ribbon and 5 pieces of light pink ribbon. Both of them are cut to 5 inches long. First, I'm going to take my stack of tags. I'm going to use my crocodile, but you can use any type of hole punch, and I'm going to punch a hole right at the top of all of these tags. Then I'm going to take them one at a time. I'm going to use one of each color, and I'm going to string my ribbon through the hole to make a tag topper. To decorate the front of the pink and white striped tags, I took 2 stickers. I like these little dress forms in the dress, so I am going to be using these for my images on my tags. I back them onto black cardstock just so that they're easier to see on the tags. So I'm going to put these on each tag. I'm also going to be putting this border strip sticker. It says Elegance, so I'm going to take this off of the sticker sheet. So I'm going to cut this so that I have 2 sections of it. So I'm going to lay this down here first. I'm going to move my image, and then I'm going to cut this and continue it on the other side. Then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to add this sticker right in the center, right over top of the border strip. So now it looks like one continuous border strip with the sticker in the middle. I'm going to repeat the process with this one. So now with these 2 tags, the fronts and the backs are both finished. For the pink tags, we're going to use the black border strip sticker on the sticker sheet, and each of these tags we're going to place this in a different position just based on what's on the tag. So for this one, I'm thinking that I don't want to cover up the word bell, I don't want to cover up the butterfly, so I want to find a position where in each of these places I like the look of it. So I know for this middle one, I can either place it here at the top or I can place it down here at the bottom. So I like this here. So I'm just going to lay this down and then I'm going to cut off the excess. Then I'm going to do the same thing with these ones, and I'm going to decide where I want to add this. Next, what I'm going to do is 1, 2, 3 of these little round stickers. I'm going to put one on each of the tags. So I'm going to peel one off, and I'm just going to place it right over top of the border strip that we just put down in whatever position looks good on the tag. And because these tags have a busy pattern on them, I'm not going to add anything more to these ones because I want to see that pattern paper since it's so pretty. With the butterfly pieces that we cut from the die cut, we're going to add 2 layers. There's a black layer first, and then there's a pink layer on top. And what I did was just glue down the middle of the body. So the butterfly wings are actually 3-dimensional. They will slash it a little bit whenever the book is closed, but that's okay. So each page I placed it in just a slightly different position based on what I saw on my paper. So I have butterflies on each of the pocket pages here. I have lightly inked around the edges on the pink paper with black distress ink just to make it a little bit less bright. So that is the butterfly embellishment for the inside. The last thing I did was decorate the cover. So what I did was take some chipboard pieces. This picture of the Eiffel Tower was actually inside of this pink frame. So I popped it out and then I placed a piece of paper. One of my scraps had the word graceful, but it only had part of the word. So I used the word grace. I put that down first, then I put the frame around it. Then I added the Eiffel Tower piece on top of that, and then I layered this butterfly chipboard. I added these little accent pieces, they're like little buttons, and then I add them all around the outside edge. I finished this off with a flower because there wasn't any design paper from the graceful saying in that area, so I just wanted to close that off. For the spine, I made a chunky little boho bead that I dangled from the lace trim at the top. It's held on by a ball pin, so it is removable. It's got some little pink and black fibers, a chunky pink bead, and then the Eiffel Tower charm, which matches the papers perfectly. So this is the micro mini album that I've created using the Graphic 45 Elegance collection. I hope you found the tutorial helpful, and I hope you will make one of these darling little mini books yourself. Thank you for watching and have a great day.